Chof Dalet Amud Aleph. We'll begin Chof Gimel Amud Beis, a few lines from the bottom. Boy Minei Rav Yosef Brachot Rav Nechunya. It's about 6 lines from the bottom. Boy Minei Rav Yosef Brachot Rav Nechunya Rav Yehuda Ma'u She'aniach Adam Tfilav Tachas Mirash Yosef. Can a person put the tefillin under his head when he's lying down in bed? Can he put the tefillin under his head? Tachas Miragl Yosef Lo Kami Boile. Under his feet, that's not a shlit. Shenai behen minig b'zayim, because it's disgraceful for the tefillin. Ki kami ba'ili, my shayla is tachas marash yosef mai. Can he put it under his head? Is that considered disgraceful or not? Amar lehachi amar Shmuel muter. Shmuel says it's muter. Afilu ishtei imay. Even if his wife is with him, it's still muter. If his wife is with him, there's a possibility that he would have relations with her. So how could it be muter? The Mefarshim speak out that we're talking where the tefillin is wrapped in a double kli. It's put in a kli beside a kli. So it's considered to be, as far as that's concerned, in a separate compartment. The question is, though, is it disgraceful for him to be lying on the tefillin, to have it under his head? Shmuel says, mutar filish teimai. Meisville asks you a kasha, lo yaniach adam tfilav tachas miragl yosef. He cannot put it under his feet, mipnei shenai minig b'zayim, because it's disgraceful. Aval manichan tachas mirash yosef, but he could put it under his head. However, v'im haisa ishtoi imoi also, but if his wife was with him, then it's also. However, he was on a ledge which is 3 tvachim higher, so that's considered to be in a separate place. Or 3 tvachim lower, then it's muter. However, we see clearly that if his wife is with him, that it's also tiyufta. The Shmuel tiyufta, we see a clear kasha on Shmuel tiyufta from this brisa that it is also if he's with his wife. Amar Rava says, Afagav the Tanya tiyufta the Shmuel, even though we see from the brisa that it refutes Shmuel, Sakashan Shmuel, nevertheless, nevertheless, the halach is like Shmuel. My time, call netirusa tvei adif, because any additional protection for the tefillin is considered preferable. And if this will afford him more protection, that he's protecting it it's under his head and he's guarding it, therefore it would be muter. Before Shem asks the question, if we see clearly from the brisa that that's not so, how can Rava say that nevertheless we paskin like Shmuel? You know, Yeshua says it's really based on an earlier brisa that we had previously, Legabe Abesa Kise. Over there was an original version that it's also to bring a tefillin to a Abesa Kise, it has to be removed Dalet Amos away. Later generations, they said they were matirit because called netirusa tve adif, that we give priority to guarding the tefillin. So just like we say, we don't put it in a chaloin that samach l'rishusa rabim because Ovid Rachim could pass by and take it. We don't put it in a hole in the ground because mice can get it to it. And therefore, for the protection of the tefillin, even though it's somewhat disrespectful, that takes priority. Here also we apply that principle over here, and even though the brisa said that ishto is also, but for the sake of netirusa, for guarding the tefillin, like we see from the previous brisa, Lagabe Besa Kise, that in later generations they gave priority to guarding the tefillin, that's why we paskin like Shmuel. So where exactly does he put it? So he puts it between the mattress and the pillow, but not directly under his head. So we minimize this element of design, so it's not lying mamish on top of the tefillin. It's not directly under his head. Reflecting more about Tani Revi Chia Menichem Bekoiva Tachs Marash Yosef. Rav Chia said that he put it in a pouch under his head. So the implication is that it's directly under his head. Taisus asks, where do we see over here that it's directly under his head? It just says, Menichem bekoiva tachas mirash yosef. He puts it in a pouch under his head. So Taisus says that if it wouldn't be directly under his head, we wouldn't emphasize over here that it's in a pouch. It seems to be that the it's emphasized that it's in a pouch to teach you that since it's in a pouch, he can put it directly under his head. The Gemara says, no, it's not directly under its head. The Gemara answers, the mapet l'lamush the kuvalabar, where it protrudes, where it bulges, that's outside. Meaning, in the pouch itself, where the tefillin is, where the place of the tefillin itself is outside, is not directly under his head. The rest of the pouch can be under his head. But where the tefillin is placed, that place where the tefillin is should be outside, not directly under his head. Where Kapora took the tefillin, he wrapped it in the canopy surrounding his bed, so presumably it was in a pouch. It was wrapped in the canopy around his bed, so it was a kli, was in a double protection. And umapik l'mershan lebar, where the tefillin was, it protruded outside, it was not directly under his head. Rav Shisha Breder Avidi Manachlu Ashar Shifa, he put it on a stool, and he put it on a stool, so it was not under his head, and again, it was in a pouch, and he covered it with a turban or a scarf. Amar Rav Amnun Breder of Yosef, Zimna Chada, Havakam Nekamid Rav, Amar Li Zil Isoli Tfilin. So it was before Rava, he said, bring me my tefillin. Ashkachinu, and so I went to get his tefillin, and I found that the tefillin, where was his tefillin? I found them, Ben Karla Kesesh, like in a Roisha, that they were between the pillow and the mattress, not directly under where the head would rest. Aviyadana, the Yom Tefillah, and therefore I understood from that what he was teaching me was this. He was instructing me, halacha l'maisa, that it was the Yom of the Tefillah, the previous day of the Yom of the Tefillah, and therefore he had relations with his wife that night. The Yom of the Tefillah, like Moran halacha l'maisa Dovid, and he wanted to instruct me and he showed the halacha l'maisa that this is where the tefillin is placed, and even if he has relations with his wife. So the previous night was the night of the tefillah, and that was the yom the Aina, and therefore he showed me that this is where tefillin is placed, even when he's with his wife. Two people are lying in a bed together, not clothed. So they're two men, their backsides are touching each other. Can they recite Krishma in that manner? Is that a problem of consider touching an erva? And it would be asur to recite Krishma while touching a makam erva? Or do we say no, it's just their backsides are touching and therefore it would be mutter? Tosfos points out that a person cannot recite Krishma if he is not clothed. So how in any event, even if they're not touching, how in any event can he recite Krishma? So this is the case is talking where his head is outside the blanket. He's covered by a blanket, so he's not gazing at the erva. He's not looking at the makama erva. And either this mandomer does not hold there's a problem of libay rayus erva, because even a person covered with a blanket, there's a mandomer, and we paskin that there has to be a separation between his heart and his erva, that his heart can't be looking at the makama erva. So either this mandomer does not hold of that, or it's talking where there was a belt or something tight around, so there was a separation between his lave and the erva, not only his eyes and the erva, and his lave and the erva as well. So that's a question. If their backsides are touching, can he recite Krishma? He says it's mutter, two men it's mutter, and even if it be wife with him, it will also be mutter. What do you mean? You're telling me that it's mutter even with his wife, meaning that his wife is mutter, it's mutter with his wife, and certainly with another man, with another person. What do you mean to say that? Adrab, it's just the opposite. Ishta kegufa. It's dafka with his wife that it's mutter because he's accustomed to being with his wife, and ishta's kegufa. But achir la kegufa, but somebody else he's not accustomed to, and that might arouse machshavas, and therefore someone else would be also. So Rav Yosef holds it's only his wife that he's mutter with, but not with another person. So that's machlekes. So Shmuel says that it's mutter with both. And Rav Yosef said it's only mutter with his wife. Meisvel asks you a kasha, shnaim sheishim b'mita achas, two people are in one bed. Zeh machzer pana v'kaira, v'zeh machzer pana v'kaira. They turn the opposite way, and they can say Krishma, they can recite Krishma. V'tanya achriti. Then another brisa says, Hayoshin b'mita, ubanav b'nei beisei b'tzidai. He's in a bed, and he has his children with him. Arezeh lo yikra Krishma, elam ken haisa talis mafsekes b'neihem. Unless there's a separation, there's a talis that's a separation between, so they're not touching, the bodies are not touching, it's also, if the bodies are touching and they're not clothed, then it's also. But if they're little children, they're minor, then it's mutter. So now, so it seems to be contradictory, but according to Rav Yosef, it's not kasha, it's not a kasha, the first brisa that says that machzer panav, that it's mutter, it's talking with his wife. With his wife that he's cussing, it's mutter. The second brisa that says it's also is talking with someone who's not his wife, with somebody else. And Shmuel Kash, but according to Shmuel, says that it's mutter in both cases. It's mutter, not only his wife, even in Acher it's mutter. How can we resolve the steer in the brisa? And Shmuel Kash, even according to Yosef, why is this not a problem? The Brisa says that if his family is with him, he cannot say Krishma. Now, Banav B'nei Beisai, that family would imply his wife as well. So the Brisa says, the second Brisa is saying that even if it's his wife, he can't say Krishma. And even Rav Yosef agrees that if it's his wife, he could. It says, if he's Yoshem B'mita, Banav B'nei Beisai B'mita, Yikar Krishma, Elkim, Hoisa, Tolis, Mafsekes B'neim. Unless it's Talisa Mafsekes, that it's a separation. What must you say according to Rav Yosef? So Ma'isel Meimer, Ishtal Rav Yosef Tanoim. You must say that it's a machlokes Tanoim. Yes, the two brises are contradictory. There are two different opinions. There are two different Tanoim. So you have to say that according to Rav Yosef, in any event regarding his wife, the Didinami Tanoim, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I say, Shmuel says that with somebody else it's mutter. The brisa here, it says, implies that it's also. It's a machlokes Tanoim. It's a machlokes Tanoim. So they say they each turn to the opposite direction, then they write and recite Krishma. But their backsides are touching. Why isn't that a problem of erva, of touching the erva? Where it says Messiah the Rav Huna, it's a right to Rav Huna, Dam Rav Huna Agam, Saint Bam Mishum, Erva. It says backsides are not defined as erva in this context. It's not defined as erva, and therefore, if they're touching, there's no issue to recite Krishna. Let's bring a raya to what Rav Huna said from the following. If a woman is not clothed and she's braiding her challah, she's making a challah, so she has to be mafresh challah, she has to make a bracha. She can do it even though she's being mafresh challah and she's making a bracha. How could she make a bracha if she's not clothed? Because her erva can be covered in the ground. She's sitting on the ground. But not a man, because he'll be exposed regardless. So don't we see over here that even though her backside is exposed, nevertheless, she can recite the bracha. It's not considered an erva. Mor says, no, it's not a raya from here, because the case is talking where she's pressed against the ground, so she's not exposed, and from the backside either she's not exposed, so therefore you have no raya from this case to Rav Huna's doing. It says in the Bryce that we just learned that if he has little children with him, then it's mutter. It's not considered a problem that they're with him in the bed ad kama until what age? If it's a young girl, it's until the age of 3 years and a day. V'tinak, a boy, ben tisha shana v'yemecha, to the age of 9 and a day. Some say that a girl is 11 years and a day, and a boy 12 years and a day. But in any event, in both cases, in both cases, it's only to the age of maturity before they're developed in the chest and in the se'ar, in the hair. What we learned previously, the Gabi Tefillin, putting the Tefillin under his head, we said even though the Bryce was a Tiyuf Shmuel, nevertheless, halacha is like him in any event. Nevertheless, what about in this case over here, where he said that he can recite Krishma if he is not only with his wife, but even with someone else in a mitzvah, and their backs are touching each other? Do you weave it everything in one weave? Where the mahalach is mentioned, like Shmuel, that's where we paskin. But what's not mentioned, we don't. If some of the se'er hair is protruding from his beged, there's a hole in the beged and the se'er is protruding. Mahu, is that considered erva? Can he recite Krishma? Opposite that, Korala, he said on that se'er, meaning it's meaningless. It's not considered erva, and it is mutter to recite the Krishma. Omer Yitzchak tefach b'isha erva. A tefach, an area of a tefach, of exposed area by a woman, is considered erva. That's considered erva. So lamai, as far as what? What is this halacha? Why is it relevant? And which area of the halacha is it relevant that if there's a tefach, exposed area by a woman, it's considered erva? If it's the point is as far as gazing at her, that to look at her for the purpose of deriving pleasure, deriving hana. So one says that can't be because after the Melchama in Midian, the Bnei Israel fought the Midyanim, they fought Midian, and they captured all of their tachshitim, the jewelry, and they were makriv. They bought the jewelry from the women. They brought it to be makdashit to the Mishkan as a kapara. As a kapara for perhaps some machshavas that they had during the war, or gazing at women during the war. And it lists the jewelry that was brought. It lists jewelry that tachshim shebachus, like earrings, etc., and tachshitin shebefneim, that they used to wear ornaments covering their erva, covering their hidden parts as well. To tell you why does it list them all together? One would think that the kapara that they need, that's the way Marsha explains it, one would think that the kapara that they need is only for those areas that are hidden. There they would have the machshava, and there they would need the kapara. Why does it list the jewelry from the exposed areas, like rings or earrings, nose rings, etc.? It teaches you, if one gazes even at a etzbekatana, a small finger, it's like gazing at the Malkam Erva. So that's why it's listed, all the jewelry, because we require a kapara for the tachshitin shebifnim, but tachshitin shebachutz as well, if they were gazing at it. So you see that if it's as far as the isser of gazing at a woman for purpose of getting hana, it's not a tefach. And here it's even esbekatana, and here we're saying that if it's a tefach, so Lugabe, what is this halacha mentioned? Ella, the Gemara says, beishto l'krish. Ella, what we're talking about is not gazing. It's considered a makom erva, a place in the woman which is normally covered, and now it's exposed, even if he's not gazing at it, but he's just within eyesight, you cannot recite Krishma over there. It's because it's also to recite Krishma neged emokum erva. And if this is normally a covered area, an area that's not exposed, even if he's not gazing and he's not gazing it for pleasure, or not even gazing it, it's just in front of him, then if it's a tefach, it's also to recite Krishna. The thigh of a woman is considered erva. That's considered a malkam erva, and therefore one may not recite Krishma opposite the sheikh of an isha, and even if he's not gazing at it, the thigh is considered a malkam erva, and one may not be mistakel on the sheikh. Even if it's not for the purpose of deriving pleasure, one cannot be mistakel. That's considered a malkam erva. Shenerma, how do we know? Goli sheikh ivri naharis. The thigh is exposed, and they cross the nar, they cross the river, and that shows that that's considered an exposure. Uksiv tigal arvoseh gam terach harpalseh, and it says that your erva has been exposed. So you see that it's considered erva. Kol Be'isha, erva, singing of a woman is considered erva. To listen to the sound of the singing is considered an erva. And there are similarly, one may not recite Krishma hearing the sound of an isha, of isha who is to him an erva. He may not listen and hear that sound. The kol is considered an erva, and there's different applications of it regarding Krishma, or even not regarding Krishma, and much discussion in the place keep. Rav Sheshes Seir Be'isha erva, uncovered hair by a woman is considered erva. Shenemar tzarech ke'eder ha'izim. It talks about in Shir Shirim the yofi of a woman, and it talks about the seir. So the seir is considered an erva. Similarly, therefore, it has these applications as far as Krishma and as far as being mistakel. Said, I saw Rebbe, I witnessed that his tefillin were hanging. They were suspended from a peg. How can that be? We learned in the Brisa tefillah, someone who suspends his tefillin, they're hanging, his life is suspending, is hanging. Dirshu, the ones who darshan the hidden secrets, they said, your life will be hanging in front of you. That's someone who has his tefillin hanging, his life is hanging in balance. From the Gemara like Kasha, it depends if it's hanging from the straps, from the ritzuas, or the ksitza, or from the bottom, from the boxes. If it's the ritzuas, it's mutter, but the bottom is also v'vaysema. Loishna ritzuva, loishna ksitza. It's also in both cases. It's also. Why was Rebbe? It was ksitza. It was in a pouch. It was in a container, and there it was hanging, but not from the ritzua, not from the bottom. Neither of them. B'ksiya kisel tala. That's how it was hanging. Frag the Gemara, how chamayla meimer of that. So what's the chiddush? Gemara says no. The same hanacha kesefer Torah. You might think that it has to be resting down. It has to be like a sefer Torah, that it's not hanging at all. Even in a container or a pouch, it can't be hanging. It can't be dangling. Kamash Malan, that tefillin, even though it has parshas and it has the kedusha, it's not like a sefer Torah. A sefer Torah can't be hanging at all, but tefillin could if it's in a kiss in a pouch.